This is hashtag history episode 157. I'm Rachel.
And I'm Leah.
And this week we are throwing it back to the 12th or 13th century BCE.
So just like a minute ago.
It was just a minute ago. Honestly, the truth is, with how insane of a year it has been in American history, genuinely, it's like that was 8 months ago.
Oh my gosh, yes.
That feels like a week ago. And
Yeah.
so, really, this that we're talking about this week feels like a month ago then.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And this time period is not typical of me. If you have been around the podcast for a while, you already know this. I am a diehard American history buff, and so I tend to stay in my comfort zone, which, let me tell you, being an American history buff has been anything but a comfort zone lately.
I don't know what you're talking about, Rachel.
I wish I was ignorant. But this week, I want to take us back to Greek mythology, or is it mythology? We're going to get into that.
Yeah.
This week, we will be discussing the Trojan War, a once believed to be strictly mythological tale about a conflict between Troy and Greece, which destroyed the city of Troy. This is the battle that involves the infamous Trojan horse, in which the Greeks left an allegedly hollowed out wooden horse outside the Trojan city gates. The Trojans eventually determined it to be a gift and they bring it inside, but lo and behold, that hollowed out horse was actually filled with Greek soldiers that came in and destroyed the city. The story of the Trojan War was told in Homer's Iliad and Odyssey, a few other pieces of Greek literature, and then was primarily carried on through oral tradition. Because Homer's works are not historical accounts, they're Greek literature and poetry, we cannot take any of what he said to be proven facts. But after discovery in the late 1800s, ruins in modern day Turkey point to what may have once been the city of Troy, causing some to believe that perhaps Homer's fictional mythological works may have had a little truth behind them.
That's cool.
Isn't that so cool? Like,
Yeah.
you think of Greek mythology as just, these gods and these legends, but perhaps, there was a seed of truth that the
Yeah.
legends were built upon.
Yeah.
That is what we'll be diving into today. And I'm really excited about it. As we have said since the dawn of this podcast, we truly believe that history is for everyone because there's something in history for everyone to love. For me, that happens to be American history, most specifically, of course, the types of topics that you generally see us cover on this podcast. But for some people, cough, cough, my husband, or maybe most men, their jam is Greek and Roman history. And
Yeah.
I think that's great. And I also think it's important for us all to stretch our wings and dip our toes into things outside of our comfort zones from time to time. So that is what I'm doing with this week's topic. And I hope that you all will have just as much fun learning about this as I did researching it. And that is, of course, not to assume that, no one has ever heard of the Trojan War and the Trojan horse because, well, literally everyone has. But learning about it again after, at least for me, discarding Greek mythology / history for the last decade or so was a really fun journey for me, and one I am super excited to take you all on as well. But before we can go on that journey together, we have to try out this drink. And as Leah and I shared before we started recording, we can't wait. We're really excited for this one.
Yes.
I'm Rachel.
And I'm Leah.
And this is Hashtag History,
the podcast for both history nerds and history haters alike,
where we dive into history's greatest stories of controversy, conspiracy, and corruption.
So this week's episode is sponsored so kindly, once again, by Local Lou.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not going to reread the message she left us, but just know that it's really sweet. And go back to last week's episode if you want to hear it.
Definitely. Thank you so much. That was lovely.
So this week's cocktail really couldn't get more easy or straightforward, except if you're me and going to multiple grocery stores trying to find a Guinness.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mine was really easy to find. Like stupidly
I went
easy.
to Target and There wasn't even like a 4-pack, a 6-pack of Guinness at the Target.
What?
And then so I was like, okay, I'll go to Rayleigh's.
Yeah.
And I went to Rayleigh's, and the only Guinness I could find was it was like a extra stout or something Guinness, which I figured was fine,
Yeah.
whatever. But anyways, straightforward because we're drinking a Trojan horse cocktail.
And straightforward if you can find Guinness
If
at
you
your
can
local
find
grocery
Guinness
store.
at your local grocery store or Target. So the Trojan horse cocktail, it contains equal parts of Guinness and Coke. The beverage, not the powder, please. Um, So, according to Barzies.com, quote, the Trojan horse cocktail consists of dark Irish dry stout and cola. The Trojan horse is a popular drink in Ireland and the United Kingdom. It is refreshing, flavorful, and slightly sweet. This cocktail is said to be just as sneaky and dangerous as the
Ooh.
legendary horse.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, the dark Irish dry stout gives the Trojan horse its dark color, while the cola provides a sweetness and fuzziness. I feel like I should have said that in some sort of British accent or something.
Oh, please start again and do it that way.
No. All right, so I know we're both so excited to dig into this. I generally don't like dark beers, which we talked about. But I do think the thing I don't like about it is the bitter aftertaste.
Right.
Most like dry, dark stouts or whatever. But I think the Coke is going to take that away.
Yeah, I hope so. I think it's going to be really sweet.
So,
hopefully.
Cheers.
Okay. Cheers. Yeah.
I feel like that really mellows it out.
It does. I don't, do you taste the soda very much? I don't think I taste the soda much. I taste the beer, but it really literally did exactly what you said. It subtracted the bitterness, but it still tastes like the beer.
There's no bitter aftertaste.
But it doesn't taste like Coke, also, right?
No.
This literally takes away the thing I don't like about dark beers.
Yep.
But still keeping the taste of the dark beer.
Yep. And I just realized Coke has caffeine, doesn't it? I'm gonna be up all night.
Yeah.
Which is fine because I have a sick baby anyway. So
yeah, so you're gonna be up all night regardless. We're recording this one kind of later in the evening, and yeah, we are drinking a full soda before bedtime. So anyway,
good choices.
Good. We make very good choices over here. I kind of love it, and I did share this with Leah before we started. Neither of us are really like dark beer people, but I kind of have now a fondness for dark beer because I was told in the early newborn days that it helped with like milk production. And so it was like the one drink I allowed myself to drink when I was breastfeeding safely and responsibly, of course. And you know, because I told myself I was doing it for the babies.
Sure. Yeah.
And I remember like kind of liking it then, not like loving obviously the bitterness, but just I don't know. Do you know what I'm talking about? When you even if it's something you don't like love, but it was a fond, it's sentimental
like
time. It's the nostalgia, it's the memories.
Yeah, totally.
And so I kind of feel that way now.
I feel that. I'm trying to think of another example of something that I actually hated in the moment, but like think of fondly now.
Well, I don't know if this is going to be true for you, but I know some people have said that about eggnog. Is like, do they actually like eggnog
no, I
that
actually
much?
like eggnog.
Okay.
Like I could drink it by the gallon. Like I could bathe in eggnog.
Okay, so this definitely doesn't apply to you. But I know some people have said that before that they don't like actually super love eggnog, but it's the seasonal feeling and the nostalgia. What are you going to rate this one?
Oh, honestly, like 8.5.
I was going to say 8.5.
No.
I really like this a lot.
I do too. It does have the same issue that all beers have for me in that I don't know that I can finish it. It's very filling, very heavy.
Yes.
But there's nothing wrong about the taste. I like it.
Yeah. I'm going to expose myself. I generally kind of, as much as I do like beer, I kind of tend to stay away from beer and definitely soda because of that carbonation. So I'm exposing myself. Before we started this podcast, I took a gas pill.
Nice. Yeah. You know what? I pre-gamed with too. Maybe. Yeah. Yeah. I still have some from when I was pregnant.
Yeah, exactly. That's what mine was too. Oh my God. So we may be awake all night, but not with an upset stomach.
Yeah. We'll be covered. It's really good. I
It's
keep
really
going
good.
back to it.
Me too. Maybe we will finish. I love this.
Yeah.
Okay, so when we think of Greek mythology, or at least when I think of Greek mythology, I think of family rivalries, sex, incest, and all the ugly things that make us embarrassed to be humans.
Yeah.
Right? And that is precisely what we find in this story as well. Before we can even dive into the Trojan War, we have to first lay the background of all these characters we are yet to meet. Because, as with all Greek mythology, we have to go way, way back to see where all of this truly began.
Yay.
Now, it's pull out your notebooks and start jotting down your family trees.
Okay.
And remember, the family tree also has to have a whole section of gods above it.
Right.
So
Zeus is the big family.
Yeah. So there's
leader.
two separate family trees that often intertwine. Now, there's a lot of lore surrounding the city of Troy, but the most important and significant trope is that Troy's walls were impenetrable. Like, so here I have a photo for us to look at, and just ignore the the horse that's being drawn into the city. That's a bit of foreshadowing, and you're not supposed to see that yet.
Okay.
I just want you to look at and describe the wall itself. I could not find a picture of the wall without a wooden horse being
Yeah.
drawn into it. So
Honestly, the first thing that comes to mind is Game of Thrones. Can't remember the season, but
Oh,
remember
yeah.
when Daenerys was approaching that one city, maybe it was Marine or something?
I wouldn't remember, but 100%.
That's what I'm imagining.
Mhm,
Yes.
mhm.
Or not imagining. That's what I'm seeing. It's
Yeah.
literally that. No. But yeah, it's just like a very long brick or stone wall, very tall, probably what, 20 people tall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really tall, really like wide as well.
Imposing.
And I also look at like the slopes and the
Yeah.
smoothness
Oh,
of
yeah.
the wall, just all these things that would make it impossible to scale, or,
Yeah.
or even, I mean, if you even get the chance to get up to it to scale, right? Like they had so many defenses that would
Yeah.
keep people so far away from the wall they couldn't even reach it.
We got a bunch of Legolas's on the wall.
Precisely. Precisely. So this is what Troy was known for, is this impenetrable wall. It's said that the walls themselves had been created by the gods, Apollo and Poseidon.
This is where it's like, come on, people.
Oh, I know. And this is where, I'm sorry to everyone that loves this kind of history. This is where my like with this history is, it's just, there's so many names, there's so many characters, and 90% of them are gods that never existed. And so it's like, do we have to talk about them? Do you have to cloud my mind with them? But you know, it lends to the
lore.
yeah, and the just the impenetrable forces that were behind this wall if gods created it, right?
Right.
Troy was also legendary due to some of its residents, the most notable being a man named Hector. Hector, the son of the king of Troy, King Priam, was Troy's greatest warrior and considered second only to the great Achilles in Greece, who will be coming up shortly. Hector had no short of 1,000,000 siblings. No, seriously, he had like 1,000,000 siblings, but he had two siblings in particular that I want to talk about as they become very important to this story: his sister Cassandra and their brother Paris. Cassandra, bless her heart, lived a pretty miserable life. As legend goes, the god Apollo fell in love with her, and to kind of win her over, he gave her the amazing gift of prophecy. But then Cassandra, being the savvy gal she was, she accepted the gift, but then rejected the love proposal. Mad about this rejection and now unable to take back the gift that he had given to her, Apollo instead cursed Cassandra, making it so that for the rest of her life, no one would ever believe her prophecies. Instead, she was made out to be the crazy woman that got locked away for screaming things like, they're going to send a hollowed out wooden horse into the city under the guise of a gift, but actually it's going to be filled with soldiers who will kill you, or something like that.
Along those lines, yeah.
Oh, something along those lines. You know, again, that's a bit of a spoiler on my part.
Well, really on Cassandra's part.
Really on Cassandra's part. She doesn't give an F about spoiling the end of the movie. The other sibling is a brother named Paris, who, before his birth, his mother had a dream that he would one day be the cause of the fall of Troy. I mean, Greek mythology is nothing but a bunch of foreshadowing, right? I
Totally,
wonder where
totally.
this story is going to go. And so, to combat this dream, this potential future that his mother had seen, his father, King Priam, ordered for Paris to be left for dead. But the infant was found by a shepherd who helped to raise him. Somewhere along the way, it was decided that Paris would serve as a judge of which of the three goddesses, Hera, Athena, or Aphrodite, was the most beautiful. To bribe him, what's the face? Why was he chosen?
Yeah, I feel like the thing that's hard for me with Greek
Mm-hmm.
mythology is like, why are the gods all up in Joe Schmo's business?
All in it, all in
You know what I
it,
mean?
because the gods are procreating with each other
And yeah,
and with us
yeah.
mortals. I know. And honestly, the reason why it sounds like I just kind of jumped ahead to something else is because I did, because otherwise that would be a 15-minute
Oh
minute
yeah.
tangent about how Zeus kind of took Paris under his wing. Paris was left for dead by his father. And so the gods kind of embraced
Yeah.
Paris. And so it may sound random that he was chosen to be the judge, but actually he was kind of placed on this pedestal by the gods, Zeus in particular. And so Paris, he's chosen to serve as a judge of which of the three goddesses, Hera, Athena, or Aphrodite, was the most beautiful. To bribe him, each of the goddesses offered him a gift. And I actually really love this part of the story because it speaks to Paris's mindset and, well, lack of maturity.
Okay.
Hera offers him power, which, if I were offered power, I don't know that I would take that one, but I can certainly see the appeal and the
A little
value.
vague.
Yeah, power over what?
Yeah.
Dominion over
I
what?
feel like that could go very
Yeah.
different ways.
Yeah, I can feel that one. I can feel being on the fence about that
Yeah.
one. Athena offers him wisdom. That one I would totally take,
Totally. Yeah.
without a doubt. And then Aphrodite offers him the most beautiful woman in the world. And of course, that's the one that Paris takes. You all missed Leah's eye roll that went all the way around her whole head.
Come on.
Of course, that's the one he took. Now, Helen, the queen of Sparta, yes, I'm introducing another person, the queen of Sparta and the daughter of Zeus, she's famous throughout Greek mythology for being the most beautiful woman who ever existed. And so that is precisely who Paris wanted. The problem, however, was that Helen was already married to Menelaus. But this didn't matter to Paris, and depending upon which account or story that you're reading, she was either abducted or willingly ran off and eloped with Paris. Either way, they both made their way to Troy, where Paris, who had been the long lost son that his dad had left out to die as a baby, was welcomed with open arms now by his father.
Okay.
His siblings, Hector and Cassandra, weren't so keen. Hector, realizing the shit that their brother had just gotten them into, and Cassandra having this prophecy that this right here is what would eventually lead to the fall of Troy. And then back in Sparta, when Helen's husband, Menelaus, who had been away when this whole kidnapping abduction had happened, when he found out that she'd been taken, all hell would officially break loose. And thus the Trojan War began.
This is Sparta, bitch.
Oh, that was good. I actually kind of got goosebumps. Yeah. See, that wasn't too bad. I only had to introduce you to 45 people
Yeah.
and tell you 16 different backstories in order to introduce this week's topic.
Yeah. Including a very, very realistic depiction of a man making a stupid choice between wisdom and a pretty lady.
And that's why, back to your point at the very beginning of the episode, this history was only last month because
Yeah.
we are still doing the same things today.
Yes.
I am nowhere close to being done with people introductions
Okay.
because now I have to tell you about all the people that Menelaus gathered to fight back against Paris and the city of Troy. And we have some pretty big hitters here. The first being his brother, the king of Mycenae, Agamemnon, who commanded the Greek fleet that would attack Troy. He also brought along with him Odysseus, known throughout Greek history to be really smart and really wise. And then, as for the warriors, he recruited Ajax the Greater, Ajax the Lesser, Patroclus, and of course, the greatest Greek warrior of all time, Achilles. I think we all know who Achilles is in Greek mythology, but a very quick rundown of the legend. When he was a baby, Achilles' mother wanted to make him immortal, and so she dipped him into a sacred river. She held him by his heel, however, meaning that the only part of his body that did not touch the water was his heel.
Could you picture that? Could you try to do that with a baby?
Absolutely not. No, absolutely not. Listen, I once my daughter, one of my daughters, one time we don't actually know what happened. I think she like poked herself in the eye, and her eye was like so red and irritated. We went to the doctor. The doctor says, put her essentially just like take her in the shower and like dunk her in the shower and get the water in her eyeballs. I semi did that to the degree that I could. I sobbed like the entire time I was in the shower with her, and after like sobbed that I had done that to my kid. So no, I could not dunk my kid into a body of water.
Well, I didn't really just mean morally. I meant more physically.
Physically, good point. However, this is when he's real little.
I don't know that I ever could have grabbed Carter by the ankle and dipped her in.
I guess I don't know. I had a really small baby, so one of my babies was very tiny.
That is
so
true.
when I think of the newborn days, there's like one baby that was literally the size of like one of my boobs.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
But so this awful and also apparently very strong mother was holding him upside down, holding him by his heel. And so the only thing that the sacred water that made him immortal did not touch was his heel. And so therefore his heel, Achilles' heel, became the singular vulnerable point on his body.
And a singular vulnerable point on my body that if you touch me, I will break down in tears.
And also the singular vulnerable point. Did you ever watch the movie House of Wax?
House of Wax! That's where it came from. That's where this fear came from, Rachel. Now, if anyone except my masseuse, my massage therapist, Stella, touches my Achilles tendon, get out of here. Get the out of here.
How many millennials are traumatized by that?
That was
those 3 seconds in a movie that came out in the 2010s.
It was because it made it worse that it was like rusty shears, garden shears. I'm sorry.
Okay. No, but I'm glad we're on the same page and have the same trauma. Same trauma here. But of course, as with all Greek mythology, this is a bit of foreshadowing, right? That he has this one vulnerable point on his body. One other quick important note to make here, because it's going to become important later. Patroclus, one of the other warriors that I mentioned earlier, he and Achilles were very good friends. They are definitely an example of that TikTok trend that was going around years ago where people refer to same-sex historical figures as like, but they were roommates.
The feeling was friendship.
Exactly. I remember you did a TikTok of that for our podcast. Yeah, exactly. Homer writes that Patroclus was Achilles' quote, most loved by far, unquote. And several other stories elaborate on the deep and intimate love between the two. It's never explicitly written that they were lovers. In fact, we know that there was a rather significant age gap between the two. But in hindsight and in understanding cultural norms at the time, it would not be unusual for these two to have been romantically involved. And as the story unfolds, I think we'll see some clear examples of that.
Yeah.
Before this team of warriors could sail to the city of Troy, they had to first calm the winds, which were going nuts. I have a quick map that I want to show you, just so you can kind of visualize the journey that they had to make to go from Greece to Troy.
Okay. There's a lot of islands in the way. I'm guessing that's the problemo.
No. Like, no, maybe this wasn't a great map. Essentially, what I'm just trying to show is like, so Troy obviously is highlighted there in red, which is now modern day Turkey.
Yeah.
What all I'm trying to show really is just like the body of water to get from one place to the next, especially when the winds and the waves are going crazy. Like that is a voyage.
That's a voyage, especially when you have to avoid those islands,
Yeah. Yeah, there you go.
Right, Rachel?
Yes, that is precisely what I was hoping you were going to say.
Right?
Precisely. A+. Agamemnon appealed to a prophet and asked him how he should go about settling the winds, to which the prophet told him, "Oh, it's really simple. You pissed off the god Artemis for that sacred deer that you killed the other day.
Of course you did. Yeah.
Of course you did, remember? So, in order to appease him, all you need to do is sacrifice your eldest daughter to him. It's no biggie." And apparently, it wasn't that much of a biggie because that is precisely what Agamemnon did.
Huh?
He lured his own daughter into the camp by telling her that Achilles had asked to see her because he wanted to marry her. She, of course, got all excited about the hot, invulnerable warrior Achilles being into her. So she skipped all the way to what she thought was a wedding altar, but it was actually a sacrificial altar upon which her own father slaughtered her.
This is why people don't like Greek mythology.
100%, because everyone is a disgusting, disgusting human being.
Yeah.
And we see ourselves in them. Hopefully not to this extent.
Right.
But in other extents for sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, the winds did indeed settle and the warriors were able to carry on their voyage to Troy. So hashtag worth it. And thus began a decade-long battle. Despite having physically capable men like Achilles and mentally capable men like Odysseus, the Greeks were unable to penetrate the walls of Troy. A lot goes on during these 10 years, but the most significant is a squabble that happens amongst the warriors from Greece over a couple of girls that they kidnapped from one of the towns that they had pillaged. At one point, Agamemnon had taken a girl by the name of Chryseis as a concubine, and Achilles had done the same with a girl named Briseis. The long and the short of it is that the god Apollo sends a plague in his rage over Chryseis being captured. Agamemnon is forced to return her, but then takes Achilles' slave girl for himself. Why does this matter? Because it pisses Achilles the F off. Following this dispute, Achilles decides to permanently withdraw from the war, leaving the Greeks without their greatest warrior.
You want to know, like, I feel like Chryseis is like, yeah, my friend, Apollo. I don't know if you know him.
I don't know if you've heard of him,
but like I'm kind of close with this guy Apollo. He's God, by the way.
He literally built the walls of Troy. I don't know if you're familiar with his work.
Yeah. So anyways, like he's kind of a friend. So just watch out if you know. I just feel like it's like all gossip.
It is. And I don't even get into this part in the story because again, it would be another 15 minutes, but the alignment of the gods with the humans, and how much that plays into the story of like which god who has which powers and which control is on which side supporting which human versus all the same on the other side.
Yeah.
And once again, this is why I like this history, and when I get to the bottom I'll talk about like what it is exactly that I do like about this history. This part I don't like I just it's mundane and so improbable.
Yeah.
That it's like I just don't care.
Yeah. But listeners, keep on listening.
No, but listeners, keep on listening. I'm hoping to make this interesting for you because it does get really, really fascinating. And again, towards the end, I loop in like why this story is so important, not only to Greek history, but Roman history and honestly, American history.
Ooh.
Yes. So let me just tell you, after losing Achilles, it did not go well for the Greeks. The Greeks continued to try fighting without him, but to no success. To finally just be done with this war once and for all and to avoid any further bloodshed, it was decided that the two men at the start of this whole conflict were going to face off. So we have Paris from Troy, the man that stole Helen from her husband, and Menelaus from Greece, that husband whose wife was stolen from him.
So this couldn't have been done 10 years ago?
Right. I have an idea. See, this is you being the woman in the room.
Right.
Get out of here, Cassandra. The two duel and Paris performs miserably. Just as it's becoming pretty obvious that Paris is going to lose his head and subsequently lose all of Troy, the goddess Aphrodite, whom you'll remember Paris selected as the most beautiful of all goddesses, and therefore she had a certain fondness for him, She swoops him up and takes him away from the duel before he can be further hurt. Aphrodite takes him to Helen, who was the catalyst for this whole war, not necessarily by her choosing. And sucks for him, she had witnessed how poorly he had competed in the duel and was not impressed. Suddenly, he was giving her the ick.
Really? That's what it took?
Right. Not stealing you away from your homeland and your husband and your family and all the things you know and love.
Yeah, no, bad fighter. That's it.
He's ewy, ewy. That's what my girls have been saying a lot lately. They go, ewy, ewy. And so the war pressed on. But for the Greeks, it became obvious that there was no way that they were going to see any success without getting Achilles back. His quote unquote roommate, Patroclus, personally visited Achilles and begged him to rejoin the army, but Achilles yet again refused. And this story here makes me pretty sad, so prepare yourself.
Oh, okay.
Patroclus says to Achilles, essentially, fine. If you're not going to rejoin the battle, at least let me wear your armor and pretend like I'm you. That may be what the Greek troops need to motivate them and get them excited again. And Achilles agrees. He gives Patroclus his known and recognizable armor, and disguised in this gear, Patroclus was actually able to successfully push the Trojans all the way back from where they were attacking the Greeks at the sea and all the way up against their own city walls. Here, however, Hector, with the help of the gods, was able to knock the helmet off of Patroclus, revealing his true identity. And shortly thereafter, Hector killed him. And this is what drew Achilles back into the war, which is something you totally do for a platonic friend.
Totally. Yeah.
That's totally something you would do, right?
Absolutely.
He was absolutely distraught over Patroclus's death. So distraught, in fact, that he contemplated suicide. A friend of his had to physically restrain him to keep him from slicing his own throat. Achilles begged for death, stating that he had no will to live without his friend.
His friend.
Again, something totally reasonable,
platonic,
that anyone would do.
Yep.
For a platonic friend.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But that grief for his platonic friend eventually manifested itself as rage. And with new armor that his mommy got him, he sought out to kill Hector and to destroy all of Troy. And that he did. As legend has it, Achilles chased Hector around the length of the walls of Troy 3 times before Hector finally confronted him and the two faced off. Here, Achilles killed Hector, spearing him through the neck. And then, in front of all of Troy, which would of course include Hector's family, Achilles strapped Hector's body to ropes and then dragged it along the back of his horse around the city walls. While Achilles obviously sounds like a heartless monster here, legend has it that King Priam actually snuck out of the city of Troy to beg Achilles to return his son's body, and Achilles agreed. So I think that humanizes him a bit, right? Just like,
sure.
He has this rage that is spurring from his grief.
For his platonic
friend that he barely knew and didn't really care about very much. And it leads him to do this really awful thing, right? Like he spears a dude in the neck in front of his family and drags his dead body around the walls where his family is watching. But then there's still a heart in there when that guy's dad comes to him crying, like, please just give me my son's body back. Achilles feels that and returns the favor.
Mm-hmm.
What's amazing is that this here is actually where Homer's Iliad ends. I think we often think of the Iliad as the primary source for the story of the Trojan War, and it is, but not the full story. Amazingly, the story of the Trojan War ends here in the Iliad before we have even reached the story of the Trojan horse, which is arguably the most known and most important part of the story. In fact, the Iliad only picks up on like year 9 of the Trojan War, which is just really that's like a side historical tangent that's so fascinating to me.
Yeah.
Homer continues the story in the Odyssey, and it picks up right away with Troy believing all hope for the city was lost, with their greatest warrior Hector gone and the Greeks' greatest warrior Achilles looming so closely. But just as Achilles was scaling the wall of the city, sneaky Paris pulled out his bow and arrow and, with a poisoned arrow, struck Achilles in his one vulnerable spot, his heel.
At least it wasn't garden shears.
And at least it wasn't a serial killer coming after him. As for Paris, he was shortly thereafter killed by the Greek forces. Okay, so oh my God, what are either of these groups of people to do? They have all lost their most important people, and it really feels like giving up might be the best option.
Like, what are they even fighting for anymore at this point?
Precisely. Yeah. What are they fighting for here? It all started with Menelaus's wife Helen being taken from him, but Paris, the person that stole her from him, is gone now.
Dead. She wasn't even that into him by this point in time because he was a bad fighter.
Yeah, Iwi. She was not into it. But that's when wise Odysseus finally puts his thinking cap on a decade later and concocts a plan. He suggests to the Greeks that they construct a giant, hollowed out wooden horse that they would fill with soldiers.
Of course. Like, who would not think of this?
Well, what I want to say is why would the Trojans think that this was a gift?
I have so many questions, Rachel.
I have so many questions. Why would you accept this as a gift, right? And see, this is the other thing. Like, we've all been on the receiving end of a gift that we have to accept, right? Like,
right.
Oh, thanks, I love it.
Yeah.
They left it at the door. You didn't actually have to wheel it in.
Right.
That's, like if that hat and scarf had been left on my porch, it might not have come in my house.
Maybe would have gone straight into the trash.
Precisely. They had a choice whether to wheel this thing into the city or not, and they decided to. So Odysseus's idea is that they're going to gift this horse to the city of Troy, who would then, lug the horse into the city, only for the horse to, of course, be filled with soldiers that would burst out of the horse, now within the city's walls, and slaughter them all.
How big is this horse?
I'm so glad you asked. There's no real picture of this mythical Trojan horse, but there have been some artist depictions of it, and it is huge. So I do have a picture.
Okay. I still have so many questions. That's big. That's a big boy. You would just look at this and be like, this is I'm a little skeptical.
Yeah, it's not just the skepticism. It genuinely is like, what does someone do with a giant horse if it really truly was a gift? Like, I don't think I would have accepted it as a gift, even if I believed it was genuinely a gift.
Also, were they standing on top of each other in this horse? How were they in this horse?
I don't know the answer to that. I do like to envision the different ways in which their bodies must have been positioned to have all fit in this thing.
Truly, are they just laying on top of each other and the people on the bottom just have the weight of 50 men on top of them?
And especially because we do know that the story, as it unfolds, it did take the Trojans a little while before they brought the horse in, because they're debating oh no, what if this could be? What if this? Imagine if you have to pee so badly and you're stuck inside this horse. Please just make up your mind.
Well, and then also I'd be pissed off. I'd be like, I have to lug this ginormous gaudy thing.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Let's put aside that this was a deception tactic, right? Let's put that aside. Let's say this was genuinely a gift. Why would you accept it? Truly. Why would you,
especially when you're in the middle of a war?
Yeah,
with the person who gifted it to you.
Precisely. Okay. I mean, so many questions, zero answers.
Never gonna get answers.
Any thoughts and opinions on the horse photo?
She's big, but also logistically, I need to know how they were stacked inside there. This is going to keep me up at night, in addition to the coke and my sick baby.
Well, at least now you have something to think about while you are rocking sick baby back to sleep.
Okay, great.
When the Trojans wake up one day, they see outside the walls this huge, beautiful horse. Not only do they see that, but they can see the Greeks way off in the distance on their ships and sailing away. After hemming and hawing for a bit, and, of course, forcing Cassandra to shut up, Cassandra, who had prophesied that this whole thing was going to happen and was screaming at them to not be idiots.
Silly Cassandra.
She's so dumb. The Trojans eventually agree that the Greeks had given up. They've retreated and they've left this giant horse to the city of Troy as a gift. And exactly as we know it, once the horse was brought into the city walls, the Greek warriors spilled out of it and began killing everyone in the city. Revenge was sought, Pyrrhus, the son of Achilles, killed King Priam of Troy, threw his infant son to his death from the city walls.
It's unnecessary.
Entirely unnecessary.
Yep.
Took his wife as his concubine.
Sure. Why not?
Right. Cassandra was sexually assaulted by Ajax the Lesser in Athena's temple in front of Athena's statue. And so Athena strikes him with lightning and kills him. Agamemnon then takes Cassandra as his concubine, but his jealous wife doesn't like this and he kills her. And then she also kills Agamemnon for sacrificing their eldest daughter earlier in the story, if you will recall.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do recall. Menelaus and Helen leave the city together and return to rule Sparta, which, I mean, I cannot even imagine what came up in the couples counseling sessions they had.
Could you imagine?
Like 10 years apart, she was living with another man.
Started a war
over her. She kind of maybe liked him at one point, but then started to get the ick. There's a lot of deep trust issues I think they needed to work through.
Yeah.
There were few survivors, but the most famous of which was a man named Aeneas. Aeneas, the son of Aphrodite, had served as a Trojan warrior, and after the fall of Troy, he and a small group of fellow survivors escaped the city and made the voyage to Italy. There, they would live, and eventually his descendants would be the founders of this little known city I'm sure very few people have heard of, Rome.
Oh.
This is what's so fascinating to me about the Trojan War. The Trojan War serves as the foundational myth with a question mark after it, for the Roman Empire. We learn of the mythical figure of Aeneas in Homer's Iliad, but then we learn about him again in another important piece of ancient literature, or should I call it propaganda, the Aeneid, written by the Roman poet Virgil. In the Aeneid, the story of Aeneas and his journey to establish Rome is told. But why I refer to it as a piece of propaganda is because the person that commissioned for this poem to be written was none other than the eventual first emperor of Rome, Augustus. Augustus commissioned for Virgil to write a piece about Aeneas that would demonstrate a clear lineage between himself and the great founder of Rome. The Aeneid prophesied that a great leader with lineage to Aeneas will rise up and bring peace and restoration to the city of Rome. For Augustus, this poem placed him in a favorable light with the Roman people. It established his authority as a rightful heir and ultimately served as a piece of Augustan propaganda that ultimately reinforced his legitimacy and positioned him as the first emperor of Rome in 27 BCE.
Wow.
As I alluded to at the beginning of the episode, it can be not only at the beginning of the episode, honestly, throughout the entire episode, it can be difficult for me to sometimes get excited about ancient history. And that's only because there are so many names, faces, and places to remember. And half of them are gods and mythical figures. But this right here is what I find so fascinating. I am forever fascinated by the use of myths and legends to establish legitimacy and authority that have real world impacts and lead to confirmed real events in history. It's also so fascinating to know that so many of these stories, for example, the Iliad, was not actually written down until around 8th century BCE, which means that this whole wild story with all of these characters and details and times and places was passed down orally for generations. I mean, if you look right now at an audiobook version of the Iliad, it's like 20 hours long. So that is so mind-boggling and so cool that this story maintained so many of its parts, assuming it did maintain so many of its parts for centuries and centuries, for it to be told to us now today.
Totally. That's really cool.
Thoughts and opinions on the Trojan War, the Trojan Horse, the Iliad, the Odyssey, Achilles, Patroclus, Menelaus, Helen, Cassandra, Apollo, Poseidon, Odysseus. I mean, any and all of the above.
Again, biggest takeaway about Greek mythology is like, I feel like the gods were just like, people just made them up as like, not like God, not like, yeah, they called them gods, but like they were just people, and they were just like really popular people.
This is what I think. It was excuses, right?
Excuses, yeah.
It's like, I only stole your wife because the god promised her to me.
Yeah.
You think I wanted to do that?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. And then finally, before we wrap up the episode, the most important question of all, how far did you get in your drink?
I got, I don't know, 2/3 of the way.
Okay.
I think I am done though.
Mhm.
At this point, my tum-tum is full.
Yeah. I think that Gas X helped me.
Oh
'Cause
yeah, I'm
doing
sure.
all right.
Yeah.
I'm doing all right. Well, thank you all so much for listening to this episode of #History.
We will share the pictures that we discussed on the episode to our Instagram, and all sources used to put together the episode can be found on our website at #history-pod.com.
A special thank you to my husband, Alex, for editing the podcast. You are the best. Subscribe to us on whatever podcast platform you use, share about us with your family and friends, and then give us a rate and review.
And be sure to check us out on Instagram. We are at #history_podcast.
And come join us over on Patreon, where for as little as $1 a month, you can help support our books and booze supply. This is a place where you can support the podcast, and in exchange for your support, you will receive an automatic 15% off all merchandise, and we mail you cards and stickers.
Yep.
Thanks.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.